talk about budgeting today. And for those of you that have never worked with us, this is what we do with clients. And um, in the Money Mastermind, we kind of breeze through it. We don't go in depth. So I wanted to do this presentation for anyone who wanted a more in-depth um, explanation and action steps on how to do all of this. So let's just jump right into it. So first and foremost, if you are not working with us and you want to get our budget template, it is available at this link here, which I'll reference throughout the presentation. And also a quick disclosure, this presentation is not any type of investment recommendation or anything like that. We always recommend that you work with a professional investment advisor or financial planner for specific recommendations. And we're not even going to be talking about investing today. This is really all about budgeting. So a little bit about my story and why I'm so passionate about budgeting specifically is that at a very young age, I learned a lot of habits about money from watching my mother and watching my family and how they dealt with money. And, my mom was always really good with money, and she enjoyed going shopping and just purchasing things. And so I oftentimes on the weekends, that's what we would do. We'd go to the mall or we'd go, shopping and go buy things for the house or whatever it was. So I grew up kind of with this habit, I would say, of on my free time going shopping. And so at a very young age, even in college already, I had developed those habits of shopping. I would go and buy clothes every week. I would just spend money, and I was making money and had no bills. So, at the time, I didn't really see the problem with doing it. But then later, once I graduated college and I was actually making a strong salary, I had those same habits carry through. And at that point, I ended up taking on a lot of debt. I ended up buying a house and I had a mortgage. I bought a car, a luxury vehicle. I had an extremely high car payment. I had shopping habits and I had all the credit card debt to go along with those shopping habits. And, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I always looked at it like, I can afford this. I make enough money, and I very much so, although I didn't realize that at the time, but I definitely was in the habit of making impulse purchases, and even more so making purchases out of an emotional state. I was working so much that when I did have a day off, it was like the way that I soothed myself, the way that I relaxed was by going shopping or spending money. And so it very much so was tied to how I felt and what made me happy. And spending money and buying nice things definitely made me happy. And what happened is that at a certain point, I ended up having a really rough month financially. And I didn't know how I was going to pay my mortgage. I had savings, but before that happened, I had taken a lump sum of my savings and renovated my kitchen. And, I never really knew how much I should be saving. I was saving, but, how much are you supposed to save? Are you supposed to save $300 a month or $1,600? Like, what is that number that you're supposed to save? And even though I had an accounting degree and an accounting and financial background, I didn't know how to invest. I didn't know anything about stocks and bonds. I just kind of was like winging that whole thing. So I really had no real financial guidance personally. And when all this happened, I went and tried to find a financial planner. Nobody wanted to work with me because I didn't really have assets at the time. I had a high income, but I also had all the debt to go with it. So I ended up finding this guy, and he was like, I feel like it's my public duty to help you. And, I remember he told me it was going to cost $1,600 to work with him. And I thought he was crazy. Like, he had lost his mind. But when I went home, I looked in my closet. I had a pair of $700 shoes in my closet. And I remember thinking, Angela, you're so dumb. You're spending all this money on all these things, and you really have nothing to show for it. Like, you have all this stuff, right? You have this car, but you have a car note. House, but you have a house payment. Stuff, but you have credit card debt. And I went back to him. I paid him the $1,600. And in that first meeting, he was like, no more shopping. You have enough crap in your closet. No more eating out. Learn how to cook. No more cable TV. Hang out with your friends. Read a book. Work out. And, in that very first meeting, we cut $800 out of my budget. That $800 started going to credit card debt. Within several months, I had aggressively paid off the credit cards. Then he was like, get rid of your car. And I was like, no, I don't want to. I love my car. It's just crazy. I look back on it, how emotionally attached I was to all of these different things and also to the lifestyle. And so it really took time, and it took small baby steps of me kind of transforming my life and getting to a place where I had no more financial worries, where I had no more debt, and where I had savings. And that freedom that comes from that, I've always wanted to just empower other people with that freedom. And that's kind of what prompted me to change careers and become a financial advisor. Many years ago now, and I've really dedicated myself to this profession. I study the profession. I'm always learning and just really always trying to pour into others and give back as much as I can. And so with that, let's talk about why we're here. So I don't know if you know this, but a recent survey done by Career Builder found that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So this means that when you look to your right and you look to your left, those people around you, statistically speaking, are living paycheck to paycheck. So when you see someone with a nice car, a fancy bag, a nice house, that golf club membership, whatever it is, chances are those people are living paycheck to paycheck. And it's not only people that are earning lower incomes, it's people at all income levels that are living paycheck to paycheck. And I can speak to that because I've worked with people who are making $800,000 a year. I've worked with people who are making over $1 million a year, and they are oftentimes spending every last dime of that, sometimes more than what they make. So I just want to bring that awareness because it's something that's often not talked about. In fact, another survey found that 7 in 10 Americans struggle with financial stability. That means that they feel unstable. This is before the global pandemic. So just imagine the anxiety and stress that so many Americans are going through now. So I'm saying all this to say and to stress that having a budget is so important. Another survey found that 1 in 5 middle-class workers in America spend more than they earn. So not only are people living paycheck to paycheck, but they're spending more than they earn. And the reason why having a budget is so important is because the budget gives you clarity. It's like it's like your financial foundation. Everything that you do financially stems from this budget. It's like the roots of the tree. And I don't care how much money you make or what you have going on. If you don't have a budget, you really don't truly have clarity on what your financial situation is. So why do you need a budget? It really offers you transparency. If you could have all your numbers on one page and you can glance at that page and understand where you are, how much money is coming in, how much is going out, how much do I have saved, how much debt do I have, what's my interest rate on that debt, what are my total monthly payments. There's so much clarity that comes from that. Also, your habits on there. How much am I spending on eating out every month, right? Man, I didn't know I was spending that much. How much am I spending on groceries, that I'm just basically throwing out at the end of the week or whatever? I don't know. Everyone has different habits, but by having that budget, you can look at it and you can pinpoint the areas that you need to work on. You can pinpoint the areas that you're strong in, and you can really start to create a financial game plan. Your whole financial plan really stems from that budget. And also you can start planning for your goals. So every time I teach, I always like to talk about the 4 basic rules of personal finance. I feel like if you can remember these things, you will succeed financially because these are like the pillars of personal finance. Number 1, buy low, sell high. This applies to everything. Whether you're buying a house, whether you're buying stocks in the stock market, whatever you're buying, if you can figure out a way to buy it at a discount, okay? That means if you can negotiate, if you can find a good deal, whatever it is, why pay full price for anything? And then when things become popular and, you know, there's high demand for those items, that is always a great time to sell. Intuitively, we do the opposite, okay? I'll give you an example. Prior to 2008, the real estate market was going up like this. Everyone felt like if I don't buy a house now, I'll never be able to afford a house. Houses are just getting so expensive. I don't think I'll ever be able to buy, right? And on top of that, housing prices are going up 30% a year. It's an amazing investment. I need to get in, right? So we felt this pressure to want to own and to buy. And really, honestly and truly, we kind of are feeling that right now as well. But then when the market started to crash in 2008 and the prices started to decline, a lot of people felt the pressure and the fear of, oh my gosh, I'm losing so much money. Get me out of this house. Get me out of these stocks. I'm losing money. Please sell this. I don't want to lose anymore. So what they ended up doing is they bought high and they sold low. Does that make any financial sense at all? No, it does not. Okay. So I think it's important for us to realize like some of these rules are so simple, but yet we don't do them. The next one is the same. Spend less than you make. How many times have you heard spend less than you make, right? If we were spending less than we make, none of us would have any debt. But the fact is that many Americans have massive, massive debt. And it's because we're not following this basic rule, spend less than you make. So, you know, I could go on and on about that, but I think that, again, this ties to an emotional side, right? We see something. We know we don't have the money for that thing, but yet we feel like, oh my gosh, I have to have it now. It could be a house. It could be a car. It could be a handbag. It could be eating lunch every day because we don't feel like making lunch and bringing lunch to work. It could be anything, but these are all very emotional decisions we're making. They're definitely not mathematical in nature, and they're definitely not business decisions. It's more like, oh, this is what brings me joy. This is what makes me happy. This is what gives me comfort. This is what's easy for me. So we tend to make decisions on that, and we break this cardinal rule of spending less than you make. The third one, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Over my years as a financial planner, I've seen so many people break this rule. A lot of times it's business owners who break this rule, right? You have your business, you're earning money, you're taking that money and you're sticking it right back into that business. So you're putting all your money into this one business. Now you have a 50-50 chance of this business doing well or this business failing. Another one I've seen is real estate investors. I've seen a lot of people who will say, real estate has always done well for me. It's a great investment. So I'm going to put all my money into real estate, right? And so what happens when we do that is we're not diversifying. And if one particular thing doesn't do well and we have all our money tied up in that, now, you know, we've put significant risk on our financial situation. Whereas if I have money in my business, I have money in real estate, I have money in the stock market, I have money in, you know, all these different things. If one of those things doesn't go well, like if my business were to fail, it's okay. I have real estate over here. I have savings. I have stocks. I have all these other things, right, that are still there. So the idea of diversifying and having different types, different pieces of the pie or different types of vehicles that you have your money in is so important. And then the last but most important rule is always pay yourself first. What a lot of people do is money comes in, and when money comes in, they pay their bills, okay? Then they'll go out to eat. They'll buy things that they've been wanting to buy. They'll do all these other things. They'll fix their car, you know, whatever. And at the end of the month, they'll look at their situation and be like, oh, I don't have any more money left over to save. And so what happens is we don't end up saving and we don't get in the habit of saving. And next thing you know, it's like, whoa, retirement's 20 years away, or whoa, retirement's 10 years away and I haven't really started saving yet. So the important thing is right now, today, I don't care what age you are, it's so important that you start saving. And what, pay yourself first means is that you are putting yourself first, because the truth is, Superman is not coming. Superwoman is not coming. No one's going to come over here and be like, yeah, I'll fund your retirement. I'll pay for you to retire. I'll buy you that house. I'll, take care of you. It's just probably not going to happen. So we really need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And, when we get to retirement, it's not like we can take a loan out for retirement or whatever. That doesn't exist. So we really do need to make sure we're saving for not only retirement, but also our short-term goals, whatever those may be. Excuse me. So let's talk about creating a budget. The key, in my professional opinion, is to keep the budget simple. Make it fun. I think so many times when we say the word budget, people are like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. I don't want to think about it. And they do the whole avoidance thing. Like, I just don't really want to know, or I don't feel like sitting there for hours figuring this out. So what you have to do is just really keep it simple. And we've really made it simple. Again, use the template. If you don't want to use our template, use a piece of paper, use an Excel spreadsheet, whatever you have to use. But just do it. It's super simple. So this is my process, the way I like to create a budget. First, you're just going to list all your savings accounts. So your checking account, your savings account, any brokerage accounts you have, your IRAs, your 401k, whatever you have, list them. Next to that, how much do you have in each one? How much money is in that savings account or in that checking account or whatever? And then if you're putting a certain amount per month, list that next, how much you're putting in each month. Then in the next section, you're going to list all your debts. Your mortgage, if you have one, your student loans, credit cards, whatever debts you have. And then next to it, list the interest rate. It's very important that you know, what is the interest rate I'm paying on this. Then you're going to list how much you owe and what the payment is. I've asked so many people, how much do you owe? Oh, I don't know. Well, what's the interest rate on your credit card? I don't know. What's your monthly payment? I don't know. So I think it's just really important that you know what you're paying, because, for example, if I were to tell you, hey, I'm going to lend you some money, but you have to pay me 27% interest, you would probably look at me like I've lost my mind. But that's what we're doing every day. In fact, we're taking credit cards and we're swiping them for pizza. We're swiping them to buy a t-shirt. Now we're paying 27% interest on that slice of pizza and that t-shirt, which makes absolutely no sense, but we do it every single day. So I think it's important with debt that you are being strategic about when you take on debt and how you take on debt. Does it make sense, right? Sometimes it does make sense. Sometimes it makes no sense at all. So I think we just need to be aware. And the budget is going to help create awareness around that. List your monthly reoccurring bills. So this is like your cell phone bill, rent if you have it, your electric bill, all the bills that come out monthly every month. And then lastly, you'll list your discretionary spending, which is like groceries, eating out, shopping, entertainment, like going to concerts, all that kind of stuff. And if you have no clue how much you're spending, one of the tricks that you can do, like we use financial planning software, but you could use apps like mint.com, for example, and you can link all your accounts, and then you can download all your transactions for the last 3 months into an Excel spreadsheet and then just categorize them. Like if you go to Whole Foods for grocery shopping, you can just categorize all the Whole Foods. Okay, in the last 3 months, I spent, $1,900 in Whole Foods. Divide that by 3, and there you have how much you're spending on groceries, right? Once you create your budget, you want to go through it and be like, hey, is there anything on here that I could possibly reduce? Maybe you can call your cell phone company and see if they can lower your cell phone plan. Your car insurance, right? When's the last time you've called them and negotiated? Are you using that gym membership, right? Maybe you're in a relationship right now, but you're still paying for Match.com or something like that. Like go through and see, like, am I actually using all of these things, and see if there's anything you can cut out or that you can reduce. If there's something that stands out to you, like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe I'm spending $5,000 a month eating out, boom, that's an easy one to focus on. You know what? I'm going to spend $1,500 a month eating out and reduce that, or I'm going to spend 600 or whatever it is. Everyone's different. So, just go through and look at it and see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Okay. So if you're like many of us, right, and you look in your account and you see $8,000 sitting there, or maybe you see $600 sitting there, I don't know. But then you feel like, hey, I actually have money in my account that I can spend, right? And then you see something you want, and you're like, yes, I can afford this because I actually have $8,000 in my account, or I have $3,000 in my account. So many people do this. And so this is why I really push with my clients to earmark their funds. And we call it sinking funds and spending accounts and things like that. I'll talk about that in a second. But really, when you're going through your budget, you need to be thinking, am I being prudent? You need to be thinking, what do I really need versus what is it that I just want? What is it that I'm just comfortable with versus things I actually need? If you think about it, the things we really only need is like a place to live. We need food, right? Shelter. We need our health, right? A lot of the things that we say need, we don't actually need. So really looking at, how will this purchase or how will this decision impact my life in a positive way? Will it make me happy? Will it make me more fulfilled? Or is it going to help me reach my goals? If you ask yourself that, and this purchase or this whatever does not really fit that, then I really say, think about it and decide, do I really need to do this? So getting into the human element, we're all human. And so there's this, kind of area of study in financial planning called behavioral finance. It's a very popular topic nowadays, but it really looks at how our emotions play into the decisions that we're making financially every day. And I think once we actually step back and think about that, like, why am I making these decisions? What is it that is causing me to make these decisions? And when you really start to look at how are my emotions affecting these things? Like I talked about my story, like I used to work 80 hours a week. I was depressed. I was lonely. I was exhausted. And so my way of coping with all of that was to go shopping and buy myself something nice, because it was like that adrenaline of like, oh my goodness, I just got this new, Gucci bag and it's so fly, and I got the matching shoes to go with it. Like I'm out here like loving this, right? But then after that high, after those endorphins, then all of that would just die down and it would just be like another pair of shoes in my closet. Like who cares, So I think it's important that we look at how our emotions are affecting our decisions and start identifying those things so that when we do it, we can identify like, wait, am I making another emotional decision because I'm sad or I'm lonely or bored or whatever it is? So that takes us into really talking about money mindset and how fear and greed plays into our decisions. And money scripts are kind of these statements that we tell ourselves that we don't even realize we're doing. It's a subconscious bias, right? It's things that we tell ourselves in our mind and we start to believe these things. And so it's very important that we start looking at that. Like, what am I telling myself? What types of thoughts and messages am I sending to myself? Are they positive? Are they in line with, prudent financial decisions, or are they toxic? So here's a few of them, just so you know. Money avoidance is, and we talk about this in the Money Mastermind, so we'll dive into this deeper. But money avoidance is when you just don't even want to see your money. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to do a budget. When statements and mail comes in, you don't even feel like opening it. It's like you just don't want to deal with it. And then money worship is when you feel like money is everything to you. It's all about having money, and that money will just make your life better and make you happy. Money status is when we associate our self-worth with our net worth, when like, the need to have certain things, material things, or like the house you live in, or, you know, your net worth, that, hey, I'm more valuable of a person. It could be to the general society, or it could be to your loved ones. Like maybe you feel like you'll get more acceptance or love from your family if you are successful financially, things like that. And then money vigilance is the exact opposite, when you feel like a deep shame and guilt about having money. Sometimes we see this with people who have money, but their friends or their family don't have money, and maybe they feel guilty that they do have money. Or it could just be the world in general, that there's people out there suffering, and, you know, here I am living this great life, and, you know, it's horrible. So these are all just things to be aware of. Like, what are you telling yourself? These are some money disorders and behaviors, and we cover this in the Money Mastermind, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. But we talked about creating a budget, right? And that's important, because I think 95% of people I talk to do not have a budget. So I think the budget, creating one, is very important. But then the people that do have a budget oftentimes don't stick to the budget. So that's where the consistency and the automation comes in, taking the emotional behavior out of it and trying to make it more robotic, trying to make it automated. So you're not even thinking about it. It's automatically, I'm automatically saving. I'm automatically paying my bills. And in fact, I'm automatically setting up systems and processes to stick to my budget and to plan for future expenses. Okay. So I want to talk about this right here, the sinking funds and the spending accounts. Okay. So a spending account is when you're setting up an account for spending. So it could be like groceries and gas. It could be shopping. It could be, you know, eating out, whatever. You're setting up an account and you're putting a certain amount into that account every month specifically for that purpose. A sinking fund is very similar in that, you know, there's going to be some anticipated type of expense in the future and you're planning ahead for it. A classic one is holiday spending. I can't tell you how many times I've heard clients say, you know, I was doing well with my budget, but then Christmas came and I just went ham and spent a ton of money, right? And my thing is, like, we all know the holidays are coming 12 months ahead of time. So why not say, hey, I know I'm going to spend $2,000 during the holidays. So how about I just set aside a certain amount every month so that in December, I will have that $2,000 in this account and I can go shopping and spending and not even worry about it. Or for example, a car, right? You know you're going to have maintenance on your car. You're going to need tires. You're going to need brakes. You need oil changes, right? Sometimes there's repairs that you need. So why not go ahead and set aside money every month to allocate towards that instead of waiting till something happens and then trying to come up with $2,000? So these are all things kind of anticipating what our expenses are going to be and setting that money aside. That way, when you look in your account and there's not a whole lot of money in there, it's accounting for all of these different expenses already. So this is what it looks like when you actually map your accounts out on paper, right? So if you're self-employed, it'll be a little more complex than this. And we, when we do financial planning with clients, we map all this out. But this is just like a general part of your personal finances. So when you get paid, you have your take-home pay. It goes into your main checking account. And then from there, you're automatically going to pay yourself first. So your savings. These are different types of savings. You have your emergency fund. You might have a travel or vacation fund. You might be saving for a down payment on a home. You might be saving for college expenses, whatever it is. So you're going to automate all your savings. Then you're going to automate all your bills, okay? All of your monthly bills, you're going to automate all of those. And then what you're going to do is take money and put it into your various different spending accounts and sinking funds. And this can be whatever you want it to be. It's different for everyone. Me, I only have 2 spending accounts. I have groceries and gas as one. And then I have shopping, eating out, nails, hair, all of that is one other account. So I have 2 spending accounts. But I have clients that have 17 spending accounts. So you just kind of have to do whatever works for you. For me, I feel like simpler is better, but you just do, whatever you're comfortable with. Once you do that, you really want to look at, eliminating debt, right? You want to focus on your emergency fund, but then you want to start looking at, how do I eliminate this debt? So there's two things. There's a debt snowball and a debt avalanche. Debt snowball focuses on paying the smallest balance first, whereas the debt avalanche focuses on paying the largest interest rate first, okay? And so a lot of times what you can do is you can try to negotiate your interest rates, get them lower, maybe even do a balance transfer if it makes sense. And then from there, organize your debts from lowest balance to highest, and then pay the minimum payment on everything and take all the extra money and put it towards that smallest debt and aggressively pay off that smallest debt. Once you pay that off, you're then going to take that money and put it to the next debt. And you just keep on doing it. And this is kind of what it looks like. So let's say I have $600 extra per month that I can put towards debt. And I've now listed all my debts from smallest balance to highest, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to aggressively pay off the smallest balance first. So I'm going to take the $600 I have extra, and I'm going to combine that with the minimum payment, and I'm going to aggressively pay this off over the next few months till that's paid off. Then I'm going to take all that money and I'm going to add that to this $40 payment, and I'm going to aggressively pay this off, so on and so forth until all the debts are paid off. What this does, it creates momentum, but it also frees up these payments every month. Like once this is paid off, you no longer have this payment. Once this is paid off, you no longer have this payment. So you just freed up $60 right there that you can now apply towards this. So that's why the debt snowball is really successful. And so that's a quick synopsis of making a budget. Again, you can find the template here. If you're in the Money Mastermind, we're going to be doing the budget together. If you are a client, obviously we're doing the budget with you. But now what I would like to do is just pause and take